Hey guys, welcome to this installment of Mike's Vehicle Vlogs. Thank you so much for joining me today. And, well, we're here with my new 2015 Ford Fusion S. And today, I have had the car officially for 1 week and 1/2. If that makes any sense. I guess I could have just said I've had the car for a week and a half as of today. And I've been driving the car nonstop. I've been trying to just drive it as much as I can, not only going to and from work, but just any other errand. I've been taking it to, half-hour trips outside of town and stuff, just to really get a feel for the Fusion and, what is going to be in store for me, the longer I have it, obviously. I feel like now that I can start to kind of critique and give my honest opinion on what I like most about this Fusion, and surprisingly, a couple of things that I don't like about it. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic car, and I'm really, really glad that I decided to go with this car. As I've mentioned in a couple of the previous Fusion videos, when I was even thinking about getting one, and after I bought this one, it's not so much the features of the car that really intrigued me to get it. It was honestly more so the ride quality, and the ride itself is amazing. It's comfortable and such, so I mean there's definitely a lot more positive points that I have to the Fusion, and the things that I don't like about it, well, they really aren't that big a deal. It's honestly, the things that I don't like about it don't really hinder my overall opinion on the Fusion whatsoever, but needless to say, I am just going to throw them out there anyway, just so you guys know what I don't like about it so far. I will say this, since I've had it for the week and a half, I have had it in the shop once already, and it's going to go back to the shop again in a couple of days. Now, nothing has broke while I've had the car, so I'm not considering these shop visits to be anything as far as a ding on the reliability on my part of the Fusion. I think these things were already kind of messed up when I bought the car, so it's really not big a deal to me. And it's still covered under warranty, but nothing really needs to be replaced. But there's one thing that I have in the car that has to be going back for a slight repair. And the other thing, I had to have adjusted, which I think was maybe 2 or 3 days after I bought the car. So I had to take it back into the shop a couple of days after I bought it. And it really wasn't to have anything replaced, but I had to have the wiper arm on the driver's side adjusted because a couple of days after I bought it, I finally ran into some rain and I had to use the wipers for the first time. And the wiper arm kind of stopped here at its full peak, and that's not right. So I had to take it back, and I had one of the one of the techs, they just realigned the wiper arms to the correct position, so now it goes all the way up like it should. So that's not really that big a deal, and I don't consider that to be any real hindrance toward the ownership experience of my Ford Fusion. The other thing that I have to have done yet, I just discovered this a couple days ago, is the 12-volt power outlet that is placed underneath the center stack doesn't work. And it could be something as small as a fuse. I honestly haven't gotten around to looking at the fuse to see if maybe it's just a bad fuse or not. But I discovered that it doesn't work when I went to go use GPS for a trip about an hour away that my wife and I had to make a few days ago. So it didn't work, but luckily there are 2 other power points in the car that work. There's one inside the center console, which I ended up using, and of course there's one in the back seat on the back of the center console. So out of the 3 12-volt power outlets that this car has, only 2 of them work right now. The one doesn't. I'll check the fuse, and if it happens to be a fuse, I'll just replace that, no big deal. But if it turns out to be something more than that, then I'm just going to have the shop take care of it while it's still under the warranty. So that's it so far. That's really the only two problems that I've had with my Fusion. But I'm not really going to count that as anything bad toward my ownership experience. Nothing that has technically broke while I've had it. I just think that those things were probably messed up before I purchased the car, so I'm not going to count that at all toward anything that has been broken while I had it. So let's go ahead and just get to the pros that I love most about this Fusion, and there are quite a few of them. So let's get started. Now, since we're outside of the Fusion, I definitely want to start off with the looks of the Fusion. I have always been a huge fan of this generation Fusion when it came out, and I just love the way it looks. The front end has somewhat of an aggressive look to it, and the rest of the car just has a nice curves and lines. I love the back. The LED taillights are awesome at night and such. It's just a really good looking car, and you know, compared to a lot of other cars that are out there that are in this kind of, you know, class, I honestly think the Fusion is one of the best looking ones out there. Now, for 2017, as mentioned in my Blast vlog, the Fusion did receive a small makeover to the front end and to the back end. The headlights were kind of reshaped a little bit, as well as the grille, even though they still look similar to this. It's the same kind of design, but they're shaped a little bit differently. Same with the taillights, and they've added a chrome belt that runs through the trunk from taillight to taillight. So those are really the only cosmetic changes that the Fusion has had in its life, with this generation anyway. And I do believe for 2019 there's going to be an update as well. They're going to re-update something else, from what I'm hearing. Don't know if it's entirely true yet. Don't quote me on it. But that's kind of what I've been hearing about the 2019 Fusions. And yes, they are making the 2019s. The orders, I guess, have just recently been opened up to order a 2019 Fusion. So the Fusion, which was said to have been going to be discontinued with all of the other Ford sedans, I guess the Fusion is going to be staying around for at least one more model year, and could possibly end up being somewhat of a wagon, from what I'm also reading and hearing about. So I don't know if that's true or not. But in regards to the styling and the pre-facelifted front and rear like my Fusion, I honestly like the look of mine better. I still think the 2017 and 18 Fusions look pretty good. But if I had to pick, I just like the original design that my Fusion has. These are 16-inch wheels. As we know, this is a S model, so the S models came with these 16-inch aluminum alloy wheels that are painted silver, and I would prefer to have these over the hubcap covers that used to go on the S models. So they quit putting hubcaps on them, and they have these rims. Ideally, when I wanted to get a Fusion, I wanted to get the 5-spoke, the split-spoke wheels. Those are 17-inch, and who knows, maybe down the line I can convert them if I can find them cheap enough and actually get the 5 split-spoke wheels. But these wheels are nice, and I do like them. I wasn't 100% crazy about them when I initially saw the car, but they are growing on me, and it just makes my Fusion S original. So I might just end up leaving them. Who knows? We'll see what the future brings. And of course, anything above an S has color matching body cladding at the bottom, and the S models have this black cladding toward the bottom of both sides and on the back bumper. And while, again, I'm not used to seeing the S models all too much, I do have to agree that the body cladding matching the paint does look better. But again, I have grown to appreciate just the basic body cladding of the Fusion S. So, no harm there. In comparison to the last sedan that I've had, which was my 2008 Pontiac Grand Prix, for those of you who have been following this channel and series for so long, you guys know all about the Grand Prix. But I had a 2008 Pontiac Grand Prix. It was my last sedan before I went to my Escape. Sorry, my Escape. And in comparison to that, the Fusion has a wheelbase of about 2 inches longer than my Grand Prix did, and the length is actually slightly shorter than the Grand Prix. So this is about 192 inches long, and the Grand Prix was about 198, I believe. So you're looking at about a 6-inch difference from the Fusion and the Grand Prix. Now, the next thing that I love about my Fusion is the interior setup. While this is just a base S model and doesn't have all of the touchscreen stuff going on here or the optional gauge cluster, I love the interior setup of this car much better. I definitely think all of the center stack controls, the way that they're designed and placed, definitely give the interior character, along with the standard 4-piece gauge cluster. Even the little tiny driver information display that was included on the base cluster is still pretty informative and still very clear to read. I also like the fact that the 2015 Fusion was also one of the ones that still had the actual shift lever rather than the knob that they decided to throw into the Fusion starting with the 2017 model year. So the next thing that I want to hit on as far as the pros to the Fusion are the features that the S model has. The S Fusion, even though it's just the base, is still so nicely equipped. There's still so many things in here that I think just about anybody can appreciate for sure. There is not one piece of optional equipment on this Fusion. Everything that my Fusion is equipped with is all standard, and there's not anything else that is added to make this a Fusion, an upscale Fusion, basically. So this is the plain Jane, and you still get so many nice features, and I really am happy with everything that this Fusion has to offer. You have automatic headlights, which are projector beam, and they still have daytime running lamps that you can either turn on or off also. You still have cruise control. You still have a driver information display. You have intermittent speed windshield wipers. You still have a CD player, thank God. You still have this 4.2-inch color display screen, which still provides a lot of infotainment information, as well as the outside temperature, clock, phone information, all that stuff. You have the sync voice command system, so it has voice command, Bluetooth connectivity. I can still play my digital music with the USB port. Can't complain about that stuff. You obviously have air conditioning and a rear defogger, which does work, unlike my Escapes. The Escapes rear defogger never worked. And you have the select shift manumatic shifting system. So, yeah, you can even shift the gears manually if you wanted to in a base Fusion. Now, the things that you don't get in the S that I miss, not that big a deal. I obviously had to give up my sunroof. I don't have a powered seat anymore, even though this seat is still pretty configurable. You can manually height adjust it if you wanted to, and there's a manual lumbar support also. So even though it's not powered, you can still kind of tweak it the way that you desire to have it. Now, another thing that I really like about my Fusion is the level of comfort that comes from the seats and the overall driving position. They have a firmness to them, but I don't feel like they're as firm as my Escape was. The Escape seats were comfortable, and they were quite firm, to be honest with you. But this seat has more support, I guess I want to say, from the sides. There's more side bolstering on this seat. So when you're going around corners and stuff, you don't really feel like you're going to be toppling over this and that. I mean, the seats kind of feel like they hug you in a way, and I like that. I like that feel. It's kind of like a sport feel. And the steering wheel, you can also tilt and bring towards you or not. So you can raise it up or down and bring it back and forth, which is nice configuring with your, maybe how tall you are. So if you had to have your legs all the way back, which I don't, but if you had to have them back all the way and you didn't want to feel like you were holding the wheel like this, you can bring the wheel out and you can still feel pretty comfortable with where your arm and such would be positioned. Your arm to leg ratio, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Now, even though I don't really plan on sitting back here, since it is my vehicle, I can say that the back of the Fusion is still really comfortable. I feel perfectly comfortable back here, and you guys know how tall I am. You know, the seat's not all the way back for me, so I still have a lot of leg room back here. I can move my legs freely. They're not rubbing up against the seat. So yeah, headroom, the pillar comes down some, you know, but you're not really going to be able to escape that, I guess. Now this is an S, so I don't have an armrest back here. There's also no additional cup holders either, but there are door pockets, and you can put your drinks in the door pocket. And as mentioned earlier, there's a 12-volt power outlet down here toward the floor. And you also have mat pockets. So there's still quite an amount of, you know, small storage space back here, but nothing that's like overly fancy, I guess. Now the trunk space in the Fusion is also quite nice. There's this large opening here that makes it easier for you to put things in and take things out. But the Fusion is still a very, very spacious trunk. So the Fusion S comes equipped with the 2.5 liter dual overhead cam 16 valve Duratec 4-cylinder that is not turbocharged. It's the only engine in the Fusion that's offered without a turbocharger. I honestly love this engine. It's definitely a pro for me. This engine feels so much different from how it feels when I had it in my 2011 Escape. It does, however, make about 4 more horsepower compared to what the 4-cylinder in the Escape was making. So this engine produces 175 horsepower and 175 pound-feet of torque. I like the idea of it not being a turbocharger because, for one, a little less maintenance. I don't have to worry about anything like a turbocharger blowing out or something, and that makes me feel a little better. I'm sure if a turbocharger went, it's really going to screw up the performance and how the car runs. But also, there's no turbo lag. And I've noticed that the EcoBoost engines, you get a little bit of lag, so it doesn't take off right away. This car, I can get to take off pretty quickly. So, no turbo, I'm still having fun with it. And I know that this engine's really, really good. It's a durable engine, and that's why it's, in my opinion, a definite pro for my Fusion. So the really big pro that we have with the Fusion, and like I said, the real main reason why I wanted to pick this car to begin with, is because of its overall ride and handling abilities. I love how comfortable the ride of the Fusion is. Going along with how comfortable the seats are, the rest of the Fusion is able to give you a really soft ride. I mean, every now and then, you'll drive over where maybe they had patched up some potholes and such, and you'll feel a little jitter here and there, but it's nothing compared to like how the Escape felt. And I know that's kind of comparing apples to oranges, because they are two entirely different vehicles and they are two entirely different platforms. But just in general, this car just has a magnificent ride. and it's been a long time since I've had a nice riding car. It's probably, well, aside from my first Aztec, it's probably one of the best handling, or best, most comfortable cars that I've had, I should say. The steering is also well responsive. It gives you like a firm steering feel, so it's still pretty effortless when it comes to the electric power steering system. It doesn't make you really work to get the car to turn or anything, but it's definitely got a firmer feel compared to like what the Escape had. It honestly has more a similar feeling to me in comparison to my Grand Prix, but it's gonna give you you know, nice response in no time. So the handling's really good. The brakes are really responsive. The ride is very quiet also. I don't know if you can tell or not. I know the camera will usually pick up other noises that you can't really hear all the time, but and the air conditioning's on also. But the overall you know, noise level of the engine and such is still at a really low level. It's probably, this one probably is the quietest car that I've ever had. Road noise isn't too bad. Engine note's not that bad either. Any other additional outside noises don't really come into the cabin as bad. So I consider it to be the quietest car I've ever had. Now, the things that I don't like about the Fusion in no way interfere with my overall satisfaction of the Fusion. So the first thing that I don't really care for, and there's nothing I can do about it, is the electronic parking brake. Now, I know a lot of cars nowadays are coming equipped with these electronic parking brakes, and I'm not a big fan of them. The parking brake is there, well, if you're not using it as a parking brake, it's also kind of like your emergency brake, and that's kind of like a last resort to, one of the last resorts to getting your car to stop. If for some reason or another your electronic parking brake is failed, how are you going to get your car to stop? Or if you're using it as a parking brake, how are you going to make sure that your car doesn't go anywhere? So I don't like the idea of the electronic parking brake at all. I'm a lot more comfortable with the lever or pedal and cable setup when it comes to the parking brake. The other thing that I don't care for too much in this vehicle is the sound system. Now, this is an S, so it only has the very basic 4-speaker sound system. And while, you know, I can't really complain about the stereo system too much because I do have music, and that's really all that counts to me anyway, you know, I have to upgrade the speaker system. So I can't wait to do that. It's going to be maybe a few more weeks before I buy the speakers, but we are going to upgrade the stereo system to the kickers, kind of like the ones that I had in my Escape, and it'll all sound better from there. No, I'm not going to update the amplifier or anything sound related in the car. I do believe that the speakers are just going to make the standard system sound better. It worked very well for the Escape, and I am sure it's going to work very well for this Fusion. And last but not least, this really isn't that big a deal, but it is just one more step that I'm gonna have to take maintenance-wise. But apparently, there is a plastic shield underneath the engine of the Fusion. So when you go to do things like oil changes and whatnot, you have to remove this shield to get to the underside of the engine. But that's just gonna be one more thing that we're gonna have to deal with when it comes time to like do the first oil change and such, and every oil change after that. I think I'm saying that because the Escape made it so easy to do oil changes, and I didn't have to take anything off like that, and I didn't have to crawl under the car much to get to the oil plug and filter either. But the engine is obviously pushed back a little further in the Fusion as the front end is longer and there's more plastic parts and whatnot. So we definitely have to get under the car to get to the oil plug and filter. Thus, we have to also remove the cover also. I think I need to get a new tripod. It sounds like it's rattling. that's all that I've got today, guys. So thank you so much for watching this vlog on my 2015 Ford Fusion S. If you like the Fusion, any trim or whatnot, you know, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to leave your comments down below. Subscribe to the channel. Check out teespring.com/stores/Mike's Vehicle Spotlight for all of your MVS and vlog merchandise. You can also check out all the merchandise right below this video, just below the description box. And you can check out some of the merchandise that I have for sale on Teespring that way also. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Take care.